Sarah Chen wiped the sweat from her forehead as she walked through the dimly lit underground market of New Shanghai. The air was thick with smoke and the sharp scent of alien spices. Her expensive silk dress felt wrong against her skin. She was more comfortable in her military uniform, but tonight she was playing a different role. The secret entrance to the auction house lay behind a noodle shop. Sarah showed her fake invitation to the guard, a hulking creature with gray scales and too many eyes. He grunted and waved her through. Her heart pounded against her chest, but her face remained calm. 5 years of military training had taught her how to hide her emotions. Inside, the auction house looked like an old theater. Rich aliens and humans sat in red velvet chairs, sipping drinks and talking quietly. Sarah took a seat near the back, clutching her bidding paddle, number 147. Under her dress, she wore a small recording device. Every piece of evidence she gathered would help take down this slavery ring. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings of all species, a smooth voice announced. A tall man in a black suit walked onto the stage. Welcome to tonight's special auction. We have rare specimens from across the galaxy. Sarah watched as different aliens were brought onto the stage. Her stomach turned as they were displayed like objects, but she kept her face neutral. She couldn't blow her cover, not when she was so close to gathering the evidence they needed. Then she saw her. The vixen female was brought onto the stage in chains. Her crystalline skin caught the stage lights, sending rainbow reflections across the walls. But what caught Sarah's attention was the look in her eyes, pain mixed with fierce determination. Unlike the others, this alien hadn't been broken. A rare vixen specimen, the auctioneer announced. As you know, their species is known for their empathic abilities. This one has been fitted with a neural inhibitor to control those powers. Bidding starts at 500,000 credits. Sarah hadn't planned to bid. Her mission was to observe and gather information, but something about the vixen's eyes made her raise her paddle. 500,000 from number 147. The auctioneer called. Another paddle went up. 600,000. Sarah's hand moved again. 700,000. The bidding went higher and higher. Sarah knew she was breaking protocol, but she couldn't stop. The money in her account was meant for emergencies, but wasn't this an emergency? 2 million credits, she called out, her voice firm. The room went quiet. The other bidders lowered their paddles. The auctioneer's eyes gleamed. Sold. To number 147. Sarah was led to a back room to complete the purchase. Her hands shook as she transferred the credits. What had she done? This would blow her entire operation. But when they brought in the vixen, when those crystal eyes met hers, she knew she'd made the right choice. Your property, the handler said, pushing the vixen forward. Sarah saw the alien flinch at the rough treatment. The neural inhibitor gleamed at the base of her neck, an ugly metal collar that suppressed her natural abilities. Does it have a name? Sarah asked, keeping her voice cold and disinterested. They call themselves Starweaver, the handler said with a shrug, though you can name it whatever you want. Sarah nodded and took the chain they offered her. Come, she said to Starweaver, trying to put gentleness in her voice without revealing too much. As they walked out into the neon-lit streets of New Shanghai, Sarah's mind raced. She'd have to contact her superiors, explain her actions, find a safe house. But first, she needed to get Starweaver somewhere safe and remove that horrible collar. The vixen walked silently beside her, head down, but Sarah caught her stealing glances when she thought Sarah wasn't looking. In those glances was something that gave Sarah hope, curiosity. Perhaps she hadn't just blown her mission. Perhaps she'd started something even more important. The safe house was small but clean, hidden in one of New Shanghai's forgotten neighborhoods. Sarah locked the door behind them and quickly checked all the rooms. Old habits died hard. When she was sure they were alone, she turned to Starweaver, who stood exactly where Sarah had left her, still as a statue. You can sit down, Sarah said softly, gesturing to a worn couch. Would you like some water? Starweaver's crystalline face caught the dim light, making it hard to read her expression. She didn't move or speak. Sarah sighed and sat down herself, keeping her distance. I know you don't trust me. You have no reason to. But I'm going to remove that neural inhibitor now, if you'll let me. This got Starweaver's attention. Her head snapped up, crystal eyes wide with disbelief. Why? Starweaver's voice was rough from disuse. Why would you do that? Because it's wrong, Sarah said simply. I'm not your owner. I'm not anyone's owner. I'm with the Earth Military Intelligence, working to stop the slave trade. Starweaver laughed, a harsh sound. Pretty lies. I've heard many before. Sarah stood up slowly and walked to her bag. She pulled out a small device, showing it to Starweaver. This is a neural inhibitor key, universal model. It will unlock the collar without hurting you. I can prove everything I'm saying, but only after you can sense my emotions for yourself. Starweaver stared at the key, her crystalline hands trembling slightly. If you're lying, she whispered. I'm not, Sarah said. May I? After a long moment, Starweaver nodded. She turned around, exposing the cruel metal collar at her neck. Sarah approached slowly, making sure her movements were clear and non-threatening. The key clicked into place. Sarah typed in the universal override code she'd memorized years ago. With a soft peep, the collar unlocked. Starweaver gasped as it fell away. Her crystalline skin glowed brighter, pulsing with inner light. She stumbled, and Sarah caught her arm, helping her to the couch. Easy, Sarah said. It'll take a few minutes for your abilities to reset. Suddenly, Starweaver's head snapped up. Her eyes were wide, glowing with inner fire. Sarah knew the moment the vixen's empathic abilities returned. Starweaver's whole body went rigid with shock. You're telling the truth, Starweaver whispered. I can feel it. No deception, no cruelty, just concern. And something else, determination. Sarah smiled. I want to help. Not just you, but everyone trapped in the slave trade. Though I admit, buying you wasn't part of the plan. I just couldn't lead you there. Starweaver's glow dimmed slightly. It was the eyes, wasn't it? Everyone always comments on vixen eyes. No, Sarah said honestly. It was the look in them. You hadn't given up. Even after everything, you were still fighting. Tears like liquid crystal rolled down Starweaver's cheeks. I don't understand humans. Your emotions are so raw, intense. Most species shield themselves, build walls. But you feel everything so strongly. Sarah offered her a tissue. Is that a bad thing? I don't know, Starweaver admitted. I've never. She stopped, her glow pulsing with sudden alarm. Someone's coming. 3. No, 4 minds. They're angry. Hunting. Sarah was on her feet instantly, pulling her hidden blaster from her bag. They must have followed us. Can you walk? Starweaver stood shakily. Yes, but what? Why are you still protecting me? You could leave. Save yourself. Sarah checked her blaster's charge. That's not how humans work. Not the good ones, anyway. Now come on. There's a secret exit through the bathroom. And Starweaver. Yes. Welcome to freedom. Let's make sure you keep it. As they hurried toward the back of the safe house, Starweaver felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. And underneath her own emotions, she could sense Sarah's determination burning like a star, bright, warm, and absolutely unwavering. The back alleys of New Shanghai were a maze of shadows and steam vents. Sarah led the way, holding Starweaver's hand as they ran. The crystalline alien skin gave off a faint glow that Sarah wished she could dim, but there was no time to worry about that now. Left here, Sarah whispered, pulling them behind a noodle stand. The smell of cooking oil filled the air. How close are they? Starweaver's crystal eyes unfocused as she reached out with her newly freed empathic powers. 2 blocks behind us. They're so angry. And there's someone else. Her eyes widened with fear. Above us. Sarah looked up just as a dark figure dropped from the roof. She shoved Starweaver aside and rolled, barely avoiding the stun baton that crackled where she'd been standing. The assassin was Centaurian, with 4 arms and skin like black leather. "The slaver sends his regards," the assassin hissed, all 4 arms now holding weapons. Sarah fired her blaster, but the Centaurian was fast, dodging the shot. One of his stun batons caught her arm, making her muscles spasm. She dropped her blaster. "Sarah!" Starweaver cried out. The Centaurian turned toward Starweaver, teeth gleaming. The merchandise should stay quiet. Sarah used his moment of distraction to slam her boot into the back of his knee. As he stumbled, she grabbed one of his dropped batons and jabbed it into his side. The assassin convulsed and fell. "Run!" Sarah grabbed Starweaver's hand again, but the vixen didn't move. "Wait!" Starweaver's crystal skin was pulsing with bright colors. "There's another one. In the crowd ahead. He's waiting to ambush us." Sarah stared at her. "You can sense that clearly." "Yes, I've never felt my powers this strong before. Your emotions, they're somehow making me stronger. The fear, the determination, the..." Starweaver stopped, looking confused. "The what?" "The need to protect me. No one's ever felt that way about me before." Shouts from behind them cut their conversation short. The other hunters were getting closer. "We need to find another way," Sarah said, looking around desperately. Starweaver's eyes suddenly lit up. "The maintenance tunnels. I can sense a worker below us. There must be an entrance nearby." They found the tunnel entrance behind a pile of crates. Sarah quickly picked the lock, a skill she'd learned in military training, and they climbed down into the darkness. The only light came from Starweaver's gently glowing skin. "Can you dim that at all?" Sarah asked as they hurried through the tunnel. "I'm trying, but it's hard. My emotions affect the glow, and right now..." Starweaver stopped walking. "Sarah, why did you risk everything to save me?" Sarah turned to face her. In the crystal glow, her face was serious. "Because it was right. Because you deserved to be free. Because..." A shot rang out, echoing in the tunnel. Sarah felt burning pain in her shoulder. She spun around to see another hunter at the far end of the tunnel, gun raised. But before he could fire again, Starweaver stepped in front of Sarah. Her crystal skin blazed like a miniature sun, so bright it was painful to look at. The hunter screamed, dropping his weapon to cover his eyes. "You will not hurt her." Starweaver's voice echoed with power. She reached out with her empathic abilities, sending waves of fear and confusion toward their attacker. The hunter turned and ran, crashing into the tunnel walls in his panic. As the light from her skin dimmed, Starweaver turned to check Sarah's wound. Her hands were gentle as she tore a strip from her clothes to make a bandage. "Now we're even," Starweaver said softly. Sarah managed a smile despite the pain. "I don't think it works that way, but thank you." They looked at each other in the dim crystal light, both realizing something was changing between them. But there was no time to explore these feelings. They could hear more hunters entering the tunnels. "Come on," Sarah said, taking Starweaver's hand once more. "I know somewhere safe, someone who can help us." As they ran through the darkness, their hands remained clasped tight, neither willing to let go. The resistance base was hidden beneath an old factory on the outskirts of New Shanghai. Sarah's friend, Dr. Maya Rivera, had treated her shoulder wound without asking too many questions. Now, a week later, Sarah watched as Starweaver sat in the base's small garden, her crystal skin reflecting the artificial sunlight. "She's getting stronger," Maya said, joining Sarah by the observation window. "Her readings are improving every day." Sarah nodded, trying to ignore the warm feeling in her chest whenever she looked at Starweaver. "The neural inhibitor did a lot of damage. I'm just glad she's healing." In the garden, Starweaver was practicing with her empathic abilities. Small plants around her grew more vibrant when she touched them, responding to her emotions. She'd explained that Vixen empaths could share energy with living things, helping them grow. You should join her, Maya suggested with a knowing smile. Her readings are always best when you're near. Sarah felt her cheeks grow warm. I don't want to interrupt her practice. Liar, Maya laughed. You're afraid of what you're feeling, and I bet she can sense that fear even through these walls. As if hearing them, Starweaver looked up. Her crystal eyes met Sarah's, and a small smile formed on her face. She raised her hand in invitation. Sarah found herself walking to the garden before she could think twice. The air was warm and humid, filled with the scent of earth and growing things. Your shoulder is healing well, Starweaver said as Sarah sat beside her. I can sense less pain today. Dr. Rivera is good at her job. Sarah watched as Starweaver gently touched a wilting flower, her energy making it straighten and bloom. You're getting better at controlling your abilities. Humans are helping me understand them in new ways, Starweaver said softly. Your emotions are so pure. When I was enslaved, all I felt from others was greed, cruelty, or indifference. But here, she gestured around the base. Hope, determination, compassion. Even the plants feel different here. What do you mean? Starweaver took Sarah's hand, pressing it to a nearby plant. Her crystal skin was warm against Sarah's. Close your eyes. Feel. Sarah did as she was told. At first, she felt nothing. Then, very faintly, she sensed something. A gentle pulse of life, like a tiny heartbeat. That's amazing, Sarah whispered, opening her eyes to find Starweaver watching her intently. You felt it. Starweaver's skin glowed brighter with excitement. Humans aren't supposed to be able to, but you did. Your species continues to surprise me. Is that a good thing? Yes, Starweaver said simply. Humans feel everything so deeply. You hurt deeply, but you also love deeply. You hope deeply. You dream deeply. Other species think this makes you weak, but they're wrong. It makes you strong. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. We're not all good, Starweaver. You've seen the worst of humanity. Yes, Starweaver reached up, wiping away a tear from Sarah's cheek. Her touch was gentle. But I've also seen the best. In you. In Dr. Rivera. In everyone here who fights to help others. A comfortable silence fell between them. Around them, the plants seemed to glow with shared energy, responding to their emotions. Sarah, Starweaver's voice was quiet. What am I feeling right now? Sarah looked at her, confused. You're the empath. Shouldn't you be telling me? I know what I'm feeling. I want to know if you can feel it too. Starweaver's skin pulsed with soft colors. Pink, gold, and a deep, gentle blue. And somehow, Sarah did know. The same warmth in her own chest was reflected in Starweaver's glow. The same mix of fear and hope and something deeper, something neither of them was ready to name yet. Oh, Sarah said softly. Starweaver smiled. Yes. Oh. Above them, the artificial sun shone down, and the plants bloomed with shared joy. They had both been broken in different ways, but here, together, they were healing, and perhaps growing into something new, something neither of them had expected to find. Officer Mark Chen slammed his fist against the metal wall of the resistance base. His dark eyes glared at the security monitors showing Sarah and Starweaver in the garden. For 3 weeks, he'd watched them grow closer, and his jealousy had grown like a poison. It's not right, he muttered, pulling out his hidden communicator. A human? And that thing. His fingers shook as he typed in the number he'd been given by the slave traders. They'd paid well for information about the base. In the garden, Sarah and Starweaver were unaware of the coming danger. They sat together among the flowers, talking softly. Starweaver's crystal skin glowed with warm colors as she laughed at something Sarah said. Suddenly, Starweaver's glow dimmed. She sat up straight, her eyes wide. What's wrong? Sarah asked, instantly alert. Something's changed. The emotions in the base. There's fear. anger, betrayal. Starweaver stood up, pulling Sarah with her. Someone's coming. Many summons. Their intentions are dark. The alarm began to blare before Sarah could respond. Red lights flashed through the base as Dr. Rivera's voice came over the speakers. Intruder alert. Slavers have breached the outer defenses. Sarah grabbed her blaster from its holster. We need to get to the escape tunnels. But Starweaver didn't move. Her crystal skin pulsed with different colors as she sorted through the emotions flooding the base. Wait, I can feel who betrayed us. It was Officer Chen. He's still here, watching. His jealousy is like a dark fire. Mark. Sarah's face showed her shock. But why would he? The door to the garden burst open. Armed slavers poured in, weapons raised. Behind them stood Mark, his face twisted with bitter satisfaction. The prize specimen, one of the slavers said, eyeing Starweaver. Our buyer will be pleased to have you back. No. Sarah stepped in front of Starweaver, blaster raised. I won't let you take her. Starweaver placed a gentle hand on Sarah's shoulder. Sarah, stop. I can feel their intentions. They'll kill you if you resist. Listen to the merchandise, Mark said with a sneer. Always so practical, these aliens. Not ruled by emotions like you, Sarah. Starweaver's glow suddenly intensified. You're wrong. I feel everything. Including this. Her hand squeezed Sarah's shoulder. Through their touch, Sarah felt a wave of emotions. Fear, determination, and something deeper, warmer. Love. I surrender, Starweaver announced, stepping forward. On one condition, let Sarah and the others go. Starweaver, no. Sarah tried to grab her, but Starweaver moved away. A slave doesn't make conditions, the lead slaver growled, but Starweaver stood tall. I'm not a slave. I'm choosing this to protect the ones I care about. And if you want me to cooperate, to not fight back with every bit of power I have, you'll accept my terms. The slavers looked at each other uncertainly. They'd all heard stories about what an unleashed vixen empath could do. Fine, the leader finally said. The humans can live. Starweaver, please, Sarah's voice broke. Don't do this. Starweaver turned to her, crystal eyes shining with tears. You saved me once, showed me what freedom feels like. Now it's my turn to save you. She looked at Mark. Love isn't weakness, Officer Chen. It's the strongest force in any galaxy. As the slavers led Starweaver away, Sarah felt something press into her mind. A warm feeling, a location, a promise. Somehow, Starweaver had used her empathic abilities to share a message. This isn't goodbye. Sarah watched them go, her heart breaking, but her determination growing. She'd found Starweaver once. She would find her again. And this time, the slavers would learn just how dangerous human love could be. 3 days had passed since Starweaver's capture. Sarah sat in the remains of the resistance base, surrounded by broken equipment and wilted plants. The garden, once full of life, had dimmed without Starweaver's presence. We found them. Dr. Rivera burst into the room, holding a tablet. The slavers' ship, they're heading to the Centauri system. Sarah jumped to her feet. How long until they arrive? 2 days. But Sarah, Maya hesitated. There's something else you need to know about Vixen heart bonds. I've been researching since you told me about the mental message Starweaver sent you. Sarah touched her temple, remembering the warm feeling of Starweaver's presence in her mind. What about them? They're supposed to be impossible with non-crystalline species. The Vixen have tried for centuries to bond with other races. It never worked. Until now. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. What are you saying? Maya showed her the tablet. On it were brain scans. Sarah's brain scans. Your neural patterns have changed. They're resonating at a frequency almost identical to Starweaver's. Somehow, you two have formed a true Vixen heart bond. But how? I think. Maya smiled gently. It's because humans feel emotions differently than other species. We don't just experience them. We embrace them. Let them change us. Your capacity to love was strong enough to bridge the gap between species. As if triggered by Maya's words, Sarah felt a sudden warmth in her mind. A presence, distant but familiar. Starweaver. Sarah closed her eyes, focusing on the feeling. Images flashed through her mind. A ship's cargo hold, other captured aliens, guards with neural inhibitors. But they hadn't put one on Starweaver yet. They were afraid of damaging such valuable merchandise before reaching their buyer. I can see where she is, Sarah whispered. She's showing me. The heart bond, Maya said excitedly. It's growing stronger. But Sarah, this is more than just a rescue mission now. If word gets out that humans can form vixen heart bonds, everything would change. Sarah finished. The slavers treat aliens as property because they think we're too different to connect. But if humans and vixen can bond, then maybe we're not so different after all. Sarah stood up straighter, new determination filling her. Through the bond, she felt Starweaver's response, hope, strength, and love flowing back to her. I need a ship, Sarah said. Already arranged. Maya grinned. Did you think we'd let you go alone? The whole resistance is behind you. What those slavers did to our base, to our friend. We want payback. Sarah felt tears in her eyes. She moved to hug Maya, but stopped as another image flashed through her mind. Her blood ran cold. They know, she whispered. The slavers, they just discovered the bond. They can see how Starweaver's crystal patterns have changed. There, she gasped as pain shot through the bond. They're hurting her, trying to understand how it happened. Maya grabbed her arm. Then we go now. The ship's ready, and I've contacted resistance cells near the Centauri system. They'll help us intercept the slavers before they reach their destination. As they rushed to prepare, Sarah sent her own message through the bond. Hold on. I'm coming. The response was immediate. A wave of love so strong it nearly brought her to her knees. In that moment, Sarah understood why the vixen considered heart bonds sacred. This wasn't just emotion or telepathy. It was two souls recognizing each other across the vastness of space. I love you too, Sarah whispered to the stars. And I'm going to prove that human love isn't just an emotion. It's the most powerful force in the universe. Behind her, the garden's plants suddenly bloomed, responding to the power of the heart bond. The universe was about to learn just how far a human would go for love. The news spread through the galaxy like wildfire. A human and a vixen had formed a heart bond. On the resistance ship racing toward the Centauri system, Sarah watched as alien news channels debated what this meant. Some called it impossible. Others called it an abomination. But a few saw it as hope. Another resistance cell has joined us, Maya reported, checking her communications panel. That makes 5 ships now. Word of your bond with Starweaver is inspiring others. Through her bond, Sarah felt Starweaver's presence grow stronger as their ship got closer. The slavers had stopped torturing her, too afraid of damaging such a unique specimen. But they'd doubled the guards. Look at this, Maya pointed to her screen. A group of enslaved Arcturians had started a riot on their mining colony. Their leader held up a sign that read, "If humans can bond, we can all be free." Sarah touched the screen gently. I never thought our love would start a revolution. Why not? Maya smiled. Love is the ultimate act of rebellion against those who say we're too different to connect. Suddenly, Sarah gasped. Through the bond, she felt Starweaver's alarm. They're changing course. The slavers know we're coming. I see them. The pilot called out. They're trying to reach the Centauri jump point early. Sarah closed her eyes, focusing on the bond. In her mind, she saw through Starweaver's eyes. Guards rushing around. Other enslaved aliens watching with hope. A small crystal that Starweaver had managed to hide in her cell. She has a plan, Sarah said. But she needs us to get closer. The resistance ships moved faster, gaining on the slaver vessel. As they approached, Sarah felt Starweaver's emotions grow stronger. Determination, hope, and a fierce kind of joy. All ships, prepare to fire, Maya ordered. Aim for their engines only. But before they could fire, something amazing happened. Through their bond, Sarah felt Starweaver channel her energy into the hidden crystal. The crystal began to resonate, its frequency matching their heart bond. On the slaver ship, every piece of crystal, from the smallest decoration to the large crystal engine regulators, began to vibrate in harmony. The ship's lights flickered. "She's using our bond to connect with the ship's crystals," Sarah whispered in awe. "The frequency of human emotion, of love. It's affecting everything." The slaver ship's engines died, leaving it drifting in space. Through the bond, Sarah felt the moment Starweaver connected with the other enslaved aliens, sharing the energy of hope and freedom. The resistance ships surrounded the dead vessel. "They're surrendering," Maya announced, almost surprised. "The slaves have overwhelmed the guards." When they boarded the ship, they found the guards locked in their own cells. The freed alien stood tall, led by a glowing Starweaver. Her crystal skin pulsed with colors of victory and joy. "Sarah." Starweaver ran to her, their bond singing with reunion. As they embraced, their combined emotions sent a wave of energy through the ship. Every crystal surface glowed in response. "Impossible," one of the captured slavers whispered. "The merchandise, they're all connecting." "But how?" "Because we were never merchandise," Starweaver said, holding Sarah's hand. "We were always people. It just took human love to remind us how to connect." Around them, aliens of all species watched in wonder as crystals continued to glow with shared emotion. The barriers between species that the slavers had relied on were breaking down. "The revolution started with a heart bond," Maya said, looking at the freed aliens. "But it won't end there, will it?" Sarah and Starweaver looked at each other, their bond glowing with shared purpose. "No," they said together. "This is just the beginning." Across the galaxy, the news spread. Humans could form bonds that transcended species. Love could break chains, and a revolution born of connection could never be stopped. 6 months after the revolt on the slaver ship, New Shanghai looked different. Where there had once been secret slave markets, there were now healing centers. The old resistance base had been transformed into the first human-alien unity center, its garden blooming more beautifully than ever. Sarah walked through the garden, holding Starweaver's hand. Their bond hummed with peaceful contentment. Around them, other couples, human and alien alike, sat among the flowers, learning to connect. "Another successful healing today," Starweaver said, her crystal skin glowing with soft blues and greens. The Arcturian child finally smiled. "His trauma patterns are fading." Sarah squeezed her hand. "Your healing techniques combined with human emotional therapy are working wonders." They stopped by a new memorial wall, where names of freed slaves were carved. Officer Mark Chen's trial had exposed hundreds of corrupt officials, leading to the biggest crackdown on slave trading in galactic history. "Dr. Rivera's new research paper is causing quite a stir," Sarah said, showing Starweaver her tablet. "Proof that human emotional capacity can bridge species barriers. The Science Council can't deny the evidence anymore." Starweaver touched the tablet, her crystal fingers leaving trails of light. 6 more heart bonds formed this month alone. Not just vixen-human pairs, but other species too. Once they understood how human emotions could bridge the gap, everything changed. Sarah finished. Through their bond, she felt Starweaver's happiness mix with her own. Maya walked up to them, carrying medical reports. "You two should see this. The latest scans show your bond has grown even stronger. It's actually changing both your physiologies, in a good way." "We know," Starweaver said, her skin pulsing with pink and gold. "I can sense Sarah's thoughts more clearly every day, and she's developing minor empathic abilities of her own. And Starweaver's crystal patterns are adopting human emotional frequencies," Sarah added. "We're evolving together." Maya smiled. "You're proving what we've suspected. Species barriers were never as fixed as we thought. We just needed the right bridge." A small group of freed aliens approached them, led by a young vixen whose crystal skin was just beginning to show colors of healing. They were new arrivals at the center, rescued from one of the last slave operations. "Is it true?" the young vixen asked. "Can you teach us to bond like you did?" Sarah and Starweaver shared a look, their bond glowing with purpose. "We can teach you something more important," Starweaver said. "We can teach you to trust again." "To feel again," Sarah added. "The rest follows naturally." They led the group to the center of the garden, where a large crystal grew, a gift from the Vixen homeworld. As Starweaver began the healing session, the crystal responded to their combined emotions, filling the garden with rainbow light. Sarah watched as the new arrivals slowly opened up, learning to trust again. Through their bond, she felt Starweaver's pride and love. "Did you ever think," Sarah asked mentally through their bond, "that being bought at a slave auction would lead to all this?" Starweaver's response flowed back with warmth and humor. "Did you ever think breaking protocol to save one slave would start a revolution?" They looked at their life's work around them, the healing center, the freed slaves learning to trust, the new bonds forming between species. What had started as one act of compassion had grown into something that was changing the galaxy. Love, Sarah thought through their bond, turns out to be the most revolutionary force of all. Starweaver's crystal skin glowed with all the colors of joy as she sent back her response. Especially human love. Around them, the garden bloomed, the crystals sang, and the future grew brighter with each new connection formed. In the end, it hadn't taken weapons or armies to change the galaxy. It had just taken one human heart, brave enough to love beyond boundaries.